Welcome. In this video, we're going to explore the phonetic history behind some of the unique features of English word formations. Instead of covering the entire story of the language, we'll focus on key moments over the past 1,000 years that explain why English words are formatted the way they are today. We look at how the rules of the free and bound roots have evolved and why some word formation process are more productive than others. Plus, we'll see how English shifted from having complex word endings to the more simple structure we use. Now, let's define it.
Hey guys, today we're diving into the fascinating world of English vocabulary, where we'll explore how English has collected words from different languages over the centuries. Ready to learn? Let's go. English is part of the Germanic family. Think of it like a cousins to Dutch, German, and a few others. But here's where it gets interesting. Thanks to history, English has also absorbed a lot of words from Romance languages, especially French. After 1066, England was ruled by a French-speaking nobility. French was the language of law, culture, and even education for centuries. Over time, English borrowed tons of French words, especially for law and culture. But it's not just French. French itself comes from Latin, the language of ancient Rome. So, when we borrow French word, we were also borrowing a bit of Latin. And in fact, Latin has had a direct influence too. For centuries, Latin was the language of science, philosophy, and even religion. Scholars and students all learned Latin until about 50 years ago. And many Latin words became part of English. And what about Greek? Well, Greek came into English vocabulary a bit later, especially with science and technology. Greek were pioneers in many fields, so today, scientific and technical terms often come from Greek roots. You will notice a lot of Greek in medical terms, like cardiac from cardiakos, which mean related to the heart. And speaking of hearts, let's look at a cool example. Our English word hearts, it inherited from the ancient Germanic roots of English. But then, we borrow similar words from French and Latin that connect to the same meaning. From French, we get courage, which metaphorically means having heart. And from Latin, cordial, meaning warm and friendly. It's like seeing different versions of the same root idea. And one neat thing we notice is that borrowed words often have roots that are bound, meaning they are always attached to other parts. English inherited roots that are free like heart, can stand alone, but Latin, Greek, and French roots are often bound to prefixes or suffixes. It's like they need a body to make sense in English. So, English is a bit like patchwork quilt made from pieces of many languages. Stitched together over time, Germanic, Romance, Greek, Latin, they all come together to make English what it is today. And that's the beauty of language. It grows, it changes, and it keeps one collect piece from all over the world.
Imagine you're bringing home a new item from a foreign country, like a cool French sweater. You wouldn't just bring home two sweater sleeves or just a body. No, you'd want the full sweater, right? But when English borrows a word from another language, it doesn't often bring the full packages, especially when it comes to verb endings. Let's say English borrows a verb from French like manger, to eat. English doesn't borrow the French past tense from of manger like mangy. Why? Because English speakers are more likely to use their own regular verb endings, like it for past tense and ing for continuous forms. It's simpler and more used to how English grammar works, so English just takes the root word, like manger, and applies its own endings. Instead of mangy, you get mang plus ed, turning into mangit or whatever works in the context. So when it comes to borrowing inflectional affixes, English like to keep things flexible and easy.
Okay, let's take a quick journey back in time to the world of Old English, where nouns were way more complicated than today. Imagine you had to learn 8 different forms of a single word instead of just singular and plural. Sounds like a lot, right? And in Old English, nouns didn't just change from cat to cats like we do today. They had different forms depending on their role in the sentence. For example, take the word nama, which means name, and it had forms like naman or plural nominative and namum, plural dative, meaning to the names. So, if you wanted to say the name or to the names, you'd use a different word form. Imagine every noun needing different endings depending on what it's doing in a sentence. Pretty tricky, right? And it wasn't just nouns. Verbs were even more complicated. Take the verbs helpen, it had forms like helpen or I help, helpers, you help, and hulpon, we help it. That's a lot of ways to say almost the same thing. So why did English lose all this? Well, after the Norman conquest in 1066, French became the longest of power and English started simplifying dialects, mix it, and slowly we ended up with the modern English we speak today, the singular and plural for nouns, and only a few verb forms. So next time you say cat or cats, remember, we're speaking a language that's evolved and simplified over centuries. Language is always changing. It's pretty cool to think about how far it's come.
Hey there, we all know how fashion changes over time, right? One day it's all about oversized jacket, and the next it's like skinny jeans. But did you know that language had its own kind of fashion? Yeah, I'm talking about morphology, the way we form words. Morphology is like wardrobe for words, just like how certain clothing trends come and go, some word forming processes go in and out of style too. Take these prefixes for the example, those little bit we add to the front of word to change the meaning. Remember the word like Superman? It's a prime example of how the Latin prefix super, which means above, became a trend, making its way into words like superstar or supercooling. The same thing happened with Greek prefixes like hyper, which means over, in words like maybe hyperactive and hypermarket. And now we even see mega in words like megastrong and megabox, meaning something big or massive. It's like the new cool kids of word formation. But just like fashion, not all trend lasts forever. Some word forming processes that used to be popular fade away and new ones pop up to take their place. For instance, remember those headlocks compound words like redhead or maybe pickpocket? Well, people aren't making new ones like glimrock or long neck anymore, but there's a twist. In the 1960s, there was a new trend, the fit-in compound, like in sit-in or love-in. These were cool for a while even though there was no phrasal verb to match them, like I sat in for 12 hours. They just kind of happened. So as you can see, just like fashion, word formation evolve. Sometimes it's all about the latest prefixes, other times it's all about fresh way to combine words. But what constants? Language is never boring and it's always find new way to keep things interesting. Language trend may come and go, but they'll always be a part of how we communicate. Keep an eye out for the next big thing in word fashion. It might just pop up in your conversation maybe tomorrow.
And that's bring us to the end of our journey through the history and structure of English word formations. While some aspects like the influence of German quest or Latin borrowings make seem like historical incidents, they actually played a critical role in shaping the language we use today. This even led to a mix of word formation patterns that can seem a bit confusing, but they're key to understanding modern English morphology. If a story had been different, English make look and sound completely different. So, next time you break down a word or analyze its structure, remember, it's not just about rules, it's also about the rich history behind them. Thanks for joining and see you next time. Bye.